Hi everyone, welcome back. Today I'm going to be showing you guys how to make kale chips. Kale is full of fiber, has lots of antioxidants, and is an anti-inflammatory, so it's a really good food to eat. And it's also a cruciferous vegetable, so if you're trying to go through a little detox with your body, then that's a perfect food to eat. And I've actually never really been a fan of kale until this last year when my roommate showed me how to make this recipe. So thanks to her, now I love it and I actually eat it often as a snack. And now I'll be passing this really simple recipe on to you all. You'll need 3 simple ingredients, so just kale, olive oil, and salt. And you need to get the curly kind of kale because that's the one that turns into the kale chips. They have like the flat leaf ones, but it doesn't work for this recipe. You can buy either the bagged kale or the fresh kind. If you get the fresh kale, then you're just gonna have to go and pick off all the little leaves. And with the bagged kind that I have right here, which I'm using in this case, you're just gonna go through and take out the bigger stems. So you're just gonna take off the little leaves and you're just gonna remove these thicker pieces. So this is just an empty bowl that I have for removing all that. So as I transfer this into the bowl, I'm just gonna go through and remove those bigger pieces and just make sure that most of them are just in little bite-sized kale pieces. Okay, so I have a good amount of kale here, and just go ahead and make sure that you tore apart all the little leaves and that all of these larger stems are all taken out. So I'm just going to use this amount, and the next step is to add the olive oil. So I like to start with about 1.5 tablespoons. You just need enough to coat all your leaves, so it just depends on how much kale you have in your bowl. So you can just grab a tablespoon measure and measure that out. I'm just going to start with a little bit. And I like to kind of massage the kale with my hands to really get the olive oil dispersed because there's so many little crevices in all the leaves that, sometimes if you just use tongs, you can't really get it spread really well. So I just like to, I prefer to use my hands when I'm doing it. So I'm just kind of tossing it. And you're just going to continue until they're covered completely. So you don't want them like soaking in olive oil or anything like that. So just make sure you have a good amount for the amount of kale that you gave yourself. So this is pretty good. It's full of olive oil. And now we're just gonna add the salt. So you can just add whatever preferred amount that you want. I like to be pretty generous with it just because I want the kale to come out more like an actual chip. So I'm just gonna do that. And then you can again just kind of mix it in with your hands. I like to add the salt after the oil because the oil helps to get the salt to stick to the leaves, so we're just gonna do that. And just a quick tip when it comes to salt, I always like to buy pink Himalayan salt because it comes straight from salt mines from the Himalayas, and with regular sea salt you get a lot of microplastics in there, which is very unfortunate because a lot of the ocean has plastic in it now, but the healthier option is the pink Himalayan salt. There's no chance you're gonna be consuming plastic with your salt. So just a little bit of advice. And now this is plenty salty and oily for me, so you can go ahead and grab a baking sheet. And you're just gonna lay your kale onto the sheet while making sure that you don't overfill it, because if you do that, the whole bottom layer is just going to stay soggy and it's not going to really bake. So just make sure your kale has room to breathe and that they're spaced out nice and evenly. So we're just going to do that. So there isn't like a huge pile here, they're nicely spaced out. You might have enough kale for 2 trays, but I recommend just doing 1 at a time because they tend to bake unevenly if you have 1 tray blocking the other. So we'll just do 1 at a time. You're going to bake them at 350 for about 8 to 9 minutes. So I usually like to bake them for the minimum amount of time so I can just add time if I need to, so that I'm staying on the safe side. So these are ready to put in the oven. So I just took these out of the oven and I ended up baking them for 9 minutes, and I just added that extra minute because I like to see them just ever so slightly getting a little bit brown. Obviously you're not going to burn them to a crisp, so we're not doing that, but I did add the extra minute. And a key thing that you want to look for when you're taking them out, I don't know if you guys can hear it, but if they sound stiff and crunchy by the time you take them out, then that's exactly what you want. So you can just take them off right when they're done baking. And they do shrink a lot, as you can see, so you can always make more, but if you guys can hear that, they're pretty crunchy, so that's exactly what you want. And yeah, so you can add more salt here if you'd like. If you want them, you can taste them, see if you want to add a little more. So here are the kale chips. They're crunchy and salty, and hopefully you guys like this as an alternative to a potato chip or something that's more processed. Obviously this is a lot more healthy. And it's also a really good option for a side dish, so you can always serve it with a burger or some eggs, anything like that. Also, sometimes when I just don't have that much time, I'll just make myself a bunch of kale and I'll just have that as a meal. So, you know, there's a bunch of different things you can do with it. It's a versatile food in that way. So thank you guys for listening, and if you haven't subscribed, then please do so, and I'll see you guys next Tuesday.